All right, we are now live.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, well, welcome guys to session 3 of the Overland Roundtable. I am your moderator, Dan, and today we have a couple people missing from the normal cast, but we do have our normal guests. So we have Taylor. How you doing, Taylor?
Good. How you doing, Dan?
Good. And Alex in the land down under. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you.
Excellent. And our special guest for this session is Jason Barr from Okie Built Trailers. How are you today?
Good, good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And the topic for today is all about trailers. And we tried to gather a collection of people who have a variety of different trailers so we can kind of weigh in on the topic of the advantages of the different styles of trailers. But before we get into that, I'd kind of like to talk about the pros and the cons of having an expedition trailer. So Alex, what are some of the things that you went through before you decided to take on a trailer project?
I don't like setting up for long periods of time, so it had to be pretty easy to set up, and preferably quite small as well. Like there's some pretty big trailers out there, and yeah, it had to be easy to tow, not affect the fuel mileage too much, quick to set up. Those were probably the three main ones. Oh, and hard floor as well, because I find myself camping in the wet a lot. And the tent type ones kind of get a wet floor, and at least with a hard floor one, you're sort of up out of the water.
Yeah, now when you mention the big trailers, that's kind of I don't know, when I think of expedition trailer, I typically think of the ones in Australia because they are monstrous. They're just enormous and overbuilt. I don't know that we have those same types here. I mean, I'm sure we do. They're just not very prevalent. Maybe they're becoming more popular here in the United States.
Yeah, there are some huge ones that is like a caravan on steroids. Just take a caravan, weld it up a bit better, and put some massive mud tires on it and call it an off-road trailer. Yeah. And people will take them to some pretty crazy places.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some of those videos of them like actually floating down the stream. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
All right, and Jason, you've probably gone through quite a few revisions, seeing as how you have a business built around a trailer. But what are some things that somebody should think about before they decide to tackle a trailer for their off-roading?
I think the biggest thing is probably application. Like you said, a lot of people overbuild. I think us in the States, we definitely like bigger is better. I think a lot of times you just try and keep up with the Joneses, if you will, and get as much as you can in something, and not keep in consideration your fuel mileage, and there's some of the things that could take effect over time.
Yeah, and I know something that a lot of people don't really think about is the terrain where they're going, because there's some parts of the world where you just can't get through because of all the trees encroaching, and navigating a large vehicle is tough enough, but when you've got that link to another type of vehicle behind you, makes it even more challenging to navigate through. And that's kind of some of the comments I posted on Instagram and on the Facebook page earlier, just to try and get some people's thoughts on that. And that's a lot about what it came back is just knowing where it is you plan on going and the type of trip that you're going to be doing. So that's definitely a big one. And the fuel mileage. So having just pulled a trailer, my Jeep doesn't get real great mileage as it is, but going from 14.5 miles to gallon to 9, that's a pretty significant mileage hit.
Yeah, for sure.
So Taylor, you are not yet in the trailer party, but I know you're looking at it. So what are some of the things that are driving you towards that decision?
Well, just a month or two ago, we did a family camping trip where me, my wife, and one of my sons, we left the youngest at home. But the three of us took a trip, a couple hours into Arkansas, and we were in my borrowed father-in-law's Jeep XJ, and we were just packed in that thing. There was not an inch of space left, and if we would have brought, my other son along, we wouldn't have even had room for him, or we would have had to have ditched a bunch of gear. So that trip really pushed me to. It got me wanting a trailer because we just didn't have room.
Yeah, that's right where I was at. There was just not enough room in the Jeep Cherokee if I want to take all the gear. But having the trailer, I've got plenty of gear, especially for like a week-long trip. There's plenty of room. I managed to live out of that thing for a month, and I was just fine. Wasn't super comfortable. Like I don't know. I think the one that Alex you're building is probably a lot more living space. So since we're transitioning here, can you tell us a little bit about the trailer that you're building?
All right. Well, it's very similar to the one that I grew up touring the country in. The first one my parents brought, it was an $800 pop-top camper, pretty much a bigger version of what we've got. And we had that for years, like 15 years. And they sold it off because it was just too big to set up, too much of a pain, and it's mostly just the two of them. So we got something that my family and they can use, so it's suitable for two people, or maybe two adults and two kids. So the one we've got is a 1978 model, and it's a fiberglass body with, it's not even meant to be an off-road trailer originally. It has tiny little, I think they're 8-inch rims, 10-inch tyres off a Mini Cooper. That's what they came out with. And it's got, fiberglass body with a plywood floor, and it has a pop top. Pop top comes up, and then the bed ends fold out. So hard floor and hard roof. But we're stripping it down, giving it a brand new chassis because the old one had just fallen to bits, putting on new suspension under it so we can raise the height of it, put tougher tyres on it. So pretty much taking an old classic and making it a bit more off-road capable.
Now, once that's all finished, are you going to have, not just sleeping areas, you're going to have some living type quarters, a place to sit and prepare meals inside the camper trailer?
Yeah, there is I think it's a 4-burner, it might be a 2-burner actually, I've forgotten. We've got a stovetop for it anyway, and a sink and everything. The living space inside can seat maybe 4 adults, and you could have a table in the middle as well. It's a little bit cramped, but it's only really if you're in wet and miserable or cold weather that you're going to be squeezing up in there. Otherwise, we're going to be fitting a awning and everything off the side so you can still enjoy your outside time. So
there you go.
It's not going to be the most comfortable for everyone to squeeze and live inside all the time, but yeah, if you have to be in there, then you'll get by.
Yeah. Do you know about how much it's going to weigh once you're all finished?
Well, our goal is to hopefully keep it unbraked, and to do that in Australia has to be under 650 kilos, I think. I have no idea what that is in pounds, but that's the goal. It originally was an unbraked trailer, and we found a few spots where we've saved weight. So we'll drag it over the weighbridge, see what it is, but it'll definitely be under the 1,000 kilo mark.
Okay. So 650. Yeah, I was just going to say, to the Googles as fast as I could.
I win.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. My trailer is also just not a braked unit, and just dry weight. I was weighing in at 1270, I think, 1280 pounds, and that's a metal frame with a plywood box on top of it. And that is no water, no fridge, just completely dry weight.
Yep.
The tent was on it, though. So.
But yours will be, yours is completely full of gear, and Alex, yours is just a pop-up camper. It's just a place to sleep, right? It doesn't carry a whole bunch of gear?
Pretty much. So the way the floor plan is, there's the seats actually have storage under them. So you can store a bit in there. It'll mostly be your pots, your pans, and your food, and that sort of thing. It's not huge on storage space. You're still going to rely on storage in your vehicle or on a roof rack quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, that is kind of the big difference, because mine is, I've designed it so that I could load all my camping gear in it and park it in the garage, and then when it comes time to head out on the trails for the weekend or the week or whatever, all I have to do is back up, hook up, and hit the grocery store on the way out of town, and I'm good to go. So
That's awesome.
It's turned out pretty well. The place I'm at right now, there is it is down to less than an inch of clearance to get it inside the garage. So that doesn't meet the criteria of picking a house. But fortunately, I'm not going to be staying here for that long.
I know that.
Because I want to be able to have it parked there in the back, and I don't have to think about it until it's time to go. So, Jason, let's transition and talk a little bit about Okie built trailers.
Sure. The inception was, as you guys, most of us are Jeep fellows in the circle that I run with, and as we all know, space is a commodity that we don't get to always have. Our trailer, the Trailhead initial design was set up to be kind of a dual sport with a removable lid, so that you could still take it to Home Depot and you could use it instead of leaving it in the driveway. That I don't want to spend a bunch of money and watch it sit there. So I like to be able to take the top off and run, do the honeydews, and do stuff around the house and that we need to do, and it's nice to have that option, especially for someone who has a Jeep as a daily driver, without an access to a pickup bed. It's pretty convenient for that. That was the initial purpose for us, was to have a good utility vehicle and the trailer to go with it, that we could take and go wherever, whether it was to the hardware store or on a big trip. All of our stuff, we do the independent suspension, and the lock and rolls are standard, and we try to use all the best parts and pieces to make them happen.
Okay, so it's essentially an enclosed box, or does it not have a lid on it?
No, we sell them with the lid. It's got a lid and a rack. For the rack's designed basically for the temps, to go on top. In the back of them, we can do either drop-down tailgates, swing-out tailgates, or just completely sealed if you like. We do end up in the back, we drill out some holes with some drain plugs so you can wash it out. And the fact that it's rhino lined, we use the Raptor liner, so it's beat it up, take it out, use it. That's what it's for.
That's good stuff. What kind of suspension is on there?
We sell pretty much everyone that we sell, we use the Timbren axle-less suspension. We've been using them for a couple of years now, and we're a big fan. So like you were saying with the garage, this last trailer build we did was for some ATVs, and part of the requirement was it had to fit 35-inch tires. It had to have the tent loaded and everything on it, and fit in a garage and hold the ATV as well. So having the Timbren design, they've got the 4-inch drop. Actually, it would be a lift, really. So you could do a 4-inch lift and run. You can run around a 31-inch tire and keep up with the 35, and your tow rig's pretty much just pretty straight. But they also have straight axles as well. We do anything from 2,000. We've put some 3,500 pounds on there. They go all the way up to 7,000 pounds. And we might do some of those on I got a customer looking to do one for elk hunting. So you can take it to Colorado and bring back an elk with it.
7,000 pounds, that's a lot of elk.
Yeah, well, you figure he's also going to be having a Ranger. He's going to haul his Ranger in it, and the tent, and of course all your gear, and then the elk, they're not really all that small, so.
No, that's true. That's true, and actually I've looked at, I built my trailer to be kind of a modular setup as well. Mm-hmm. Like I can take the box portion that has all the fridge and the water tank and everything, I can separate that from the trailer. It's lightweight enough that, I say lightweight, but we're still talking like 500 pounds worth of wooden box. But you can lift it up and slide some sawhorses under it and pull the trailer out from under it and still have like a flatbed utility trailer.
Right.
So I like the Okie built trailers is that modular setup that kind of serves dual purpose, because I'd hate to have a trailer that does one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, and that was our deal too. There's great trailer manufacturers out there, and what they do really well. I just couldn't see spending that kind of cash and letting it sit. You know, uh, don't have the option to go every single weekend like some others might have. So it's nice to be able to use it.
Yeah. Sometimes there is actual work to be done and not just adventures,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the lock and roll trailer coupler. I don't think that's something we've talked about, but that's the 3-axis type coupler. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 360 degrees. It's real nice. You know that there's a lot of variations out there of articulating hitches. We're just a big fan of the lock and roll. The versatility of them, the ease of them, and the amount of options that they come with. You know, you can retrofit any kind of trailer. You don't have to build it from scratch to apply them. So that's kind of neat too.
Now, is there a way to lock those out? I mean, I suppose maybe that's in part of the name. I haven't really looked at it that carefully. So that you can limit the amount of articulation in the joint?
We use the 510 and the 501. Those do not. That is a full 360 degree. They do sell some that have limited. Those are more geared towards the horse trailers, kind of out of the scope of this. But they do have several variations, some limiting, you know, the amount that they can articulate. But with us, I'd rather flip a trailer than the Jeep. So
that's true. The reason I mention it is because, you know, I would like to, while I'm driving down the highway to get to the trailhead, be able to lock it out so that, you know, 70 miles an hour with a lightweight trailer, you hit a pothole, and if the suspension doesn't soak that up, you can kind of get that wobble from the trailer. And I've seen some nightmare stories of people, either somebody just tagged the trailer down the highway or something, and it actually flip over. Now, the benefit, like you mentioned, is that it doesn't flip the vehicle, but having a trailer flip over on the highway, it still turns into a total loss. Whereas like a 2-inch ball coupler or something is going to be less likely to do something like that, I would think.
you'd have to get pretty hard hit, you know, to make it flip all the way over like that. In fact, I just got through repairing one that got in a wreck, and they got T-boned, and the trailer just took the hit. So
wow.
It bent the axle on the other side, the spindle on the other side from the hit, and shredded the whole side of the trailer, and it was a mess. But it took it really well, so they didn't have any issues with the lock and roll on that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures from that, and the trailer fared a lot better than the car did. It ripped the entire front end of the car off.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. That poor car. It
So
pretty much shaved the entire nose off of it. It was pretty crazy.
Are these the polyblock type couplings we're talking about? They got the big block of poly in the middle.
That's typically, I think they call them, those are the max couplers. Those are great designs as well. The lock and roll is actually an all metal. There's only one little, it's a bushing, but it's only where it connects the rivet. It doesn't really pivot.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that type over here. But
yeah.
Hey, Alex, for your trailer, do you have onboard water, or is it a completely dry trailer?
We do. We have 60 litres. And it did have a water tank in it at some point, but the previous owner had removed that for whatever reason, so we've refitted that right above the beam axle, so it's nicely balanced. And yeah, 60 litres with a pressure pump attached to it.
Okay. Yeah, that's, let's see, 60 liters, almost 16 gallons.
Yeah.
Man, all this metric crap.
I was going to say, how much is that in American units, please?
I didn't plan on doing math during this show.
No.
Hey,
What about yours, Dan?
You were redoing your chassis, right? Is that what I heard?
Sorry?
You said you were rebuilding the chassis. I'm assuming you guys have to deal with galvanized out there with all the salt water?
Yeah, galvanized stuff. We've rebuilt a whole thing all out of new galvanized metal, and painted it, yeah, with some of the cold gal stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, you get in the can.
We had a customer hit us up about wanting to get some of the timber and axle system shipped out to them out that way, and they were looking at the galvanized side. I was just curious if you're doing the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much the standard for all the steel over here to be galvanized.
So Dan, tell us about your trailer. How did it start out? Talk to us about it.
Well, this was the inception kind of came a long time ago. I interviewed Scott Cheney, who does the compact camping concepts and the new trailers. Interviewed him on the 4x4 podcast, and just the idea of having everything loaded up and ready to go just sounded great to me, because I had just come back from a camping trip, and the memory was fresh in my mind of having to like unload all the metal the shelves from the basement, truck them out to the garage, load it into the Jeep, and all the process that took. And then when I was done trying to unpack it all and put it back in the basement was a huge pain in the butt. And so the idea of having something just ready to go sounded phenomenal. The problem was I moved frequently, and at that point the Jeep was frequently a passenger on a trailer, not pulling a trailer itself. And this last move, it didn't quite work out the way I had initially planned. My Yukon XL was supposed to pull the trailer, and about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before we were leaving to drive from Kansas City to Fairbanks, Alaska, found out that the Jeep was not going to be taken by the shipping company. And so we had to make a decision: do we sell the Jeep, do we leave it in storage, or do we drive it? And my wife said that she made the recommendation that we should drive the Jeep. And so it kind of worked out okay, but it was not the plan. But the trailer was built specifically to be pulled by the Yukon. I had the hubs matching the bolt pattern for the Yukon, had the same tires and wheels, so I didn't have to carry as many spares. So fortunately, I didn't need all the spare tires. I managed to make the almost 8,000 miles on the same set of tires with everything.
Nice.
That is a miracle in itself, especially because the tires on the Jeep they're the BFG mud terrains, the original KMs, not the KM2s, and they were mounted in 2008. And now, we started the trip with 35,000 miles on them.
Wow.
So that's kind of a miracle in itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's given a lot of trail miles and daily driver stuff too. So very happy with those BF Goodrich tires. But getting back to the trailer, I wanted it to be lightweight enough that I could easily push it around, and so I decided I'd heard that you could do a lot of good things with just the Harbor Freight trailer frames if you build it right. And so I used a lot of Loctite on all the bolts, made sure it was good and square. I upgraded the Harbor Freight springs with an actual set of leaf springs with a shackle instead of the slipper springs, and a 3,500 pound axle. And I think that made a big difference in just how it pulled. It was a lot quieter, a lot more compliant suspension. But then we've also got the fridge freeze refrigerator on there, and a 20-gallon water tank sitting right above the axle, kind of like Alex you mentioned. It gives it that neutral weight balance. It doesn't put more weight on the tongue or lighten the tongue at all. And that's got a 3-gallon per minute water pump on it. Let's see what else. Oh, and I've got a modular chuck box that I can slide it in and out of any vehicle. And so I already had that. I've had it for a couple years now, and so the trailer was built around that. So when I actually started the project, I knew, here's the trailer. I have these dimensions, and I set all my gear on top of it and just kind of played with that. And I think I actually started on the garage floor. Just set it down, measured it out, and decided, okay, here's all the stuff that I have to fit inside this one little space and how to do it. And when you start thinking about it three-dimensionally, you can have gear stored on top of other gear if you have shelves, which makes it great. I could easily get the chuck box out without having to unload the Dutch ovens. I'm actually, the table that my computer's sitting on right now is built out of scraps from the trailer, and I designed it so that you could just open up that back door, and part of the framing of the box actually suspended 2 of these tables above all the gear. So I didn't have to unload any duffel bags or tough boxes or bins to get the table out. And that really kind of paid off huge dividends. We could pull off on the side of the road, slide the tables out, pull the chuck box out, cook up a proper lunch, on a dark, even though it's summertime. Summertime in the Yukon Territory is different than summertime probably there in Oklahoma where Taylor and Jason, you guys are. So it kind of worked out really well, and I'm glad that I built it the way that I did. But like I said, I haven't lived with it for long enough to really, I have some changes that are in mind, and I think the biggest ones is just putting some stuff on some slides to make it easier in and out of the trailer. Like the fridge has a lid that opens to the top. Well, I can't open it all the way because it's inside the trailer. But if I had it on slides, I could slide it out. Yeah, and then open the lid and get right in there and get to everything. It's little things like that. The chuck box has been pretty well chewed up from sliding it in and out on the bottom. I put these aluminum slide rails, just aluminum strips really, on the bottom of the chuck box and on the inside of the trailer, so that would take more of the abuse. But sliding it in and out a couple times a day for a month is taking its toll. So really, I'm looking at that as just an excuse to build a better chuck box. But
yeah,
I'm really happy with how the trailer came out.
So, for somebody that would be looking to do something like you did, how much is the trailer and the frame, the kit from Harbor Freight? How much did you spend on the axle, the upgraded axle and leaf springs, and how much did you have in plywood? Not necessarily how much did you spend on all the gear that's in the trailer, but just the frame, the axle, the springs, and the box that's sitting on the trailer.
I was really surprised at how inexpensive it was. I kept pretty good track of it, and I'm trying to see if I can find. I kept a spreadsheet of everything. I can't find it real fast, but I do remember. So I was out the door from Harbor Freight. I think their frame. I got the 4x8 frame, the biggest one, heaviest duty one that they make. It retails for $5 something, but I waited till it was on sale. And I had a 20% off coupon, so I was out the door for $320 with a trailer frame. You have to put a little bit of sweat equity into it to put it together yourself, but that's not that big a deal. I think it took me a couple hours and a couple. Together. Yep, it bolts together. I did some reinforcement. I also added a 2x2 square tubing that runs from the tongue all the way to the back of the trailer. And that just kind of gives it some more strength because the frame is built in two 4x4 sections that are bolted together. So having that additional tubing that runs the length of it keeps it from, folding in half, I guess. It's also got a bracket that ties together the two sections on the sides for the leaf spring mounts. So I'm pretty happy with that. I also spent, it was about $450 on the plywood, and it would have been a lot less, but I went with marine grade plywood. Marine grade plywood uses a lot better adhesives between the wood ply, and that was on the recommendation from Scott Chaney and other people who have built similar type trailers over at T-Venturing on the forum there. Just a ton of information and experience on that forum. So, see, $320 for the frame, $450 for the plywood. The upgraded axle, I got the 3,500-pound axle from a local shop here, and that was with the hubs, not their standard hubs, and I think that was $175. So I don't have my calculator. I'm not doing the math here. But then a couple boxes of screws and I think 3 quarts of glue. Used a lot of glue holding it all together. And then for the paint surface, I use the Rust-Oleum 3X Deck Restore stuff. So it has a bed liner type finish. It's got that really rough, gritty texture, but it's completely waterproof. It fills in gaps and covers up my poor woodworking craftsmanship. And that I got 8 gallons of it for I think $120 from just some big box. I think it was like Home Depot or something. And it's held up remarkably well. So all in, it's a pretty inexpensive trailer. Oh, and the wheels. I got $100. Got me 2. They were spare tire takeoffs from a junkyard from a Yukon XL. So they matched the bolt pattern. And then when I bought new tires for the Yukon, I just took the 2 good tires and put them on the trailer. So that was money that was going to be thrown away anyways. I just recouped it.
Did you have an extra spare tire for the trailer?
I didn't, because I was planning on having 1 spare between the Yukon and the trailer. Between that and a tire plug kit and everything, I figured I'd be able to get by.
Yeah.
But then when I went and dropped the Yukon off at the shipping company, I pulled the spare tire off and threw it in on the roof rack with the Jeep. So my Jeep was very top-heavy, admittedly, with a 35-inch mud tire and a whatever 31 or 32-inch Yukon tire all up on the roof rack. That was a lot.
But it made it.
Yeah.
What about you, Jason? Do you build spares into your trailers?
Most of the time, there's two sides of this. Partly is depending on the customer. The majority of them do like Dan did, and they match, so they only have to carry the 1 spare. That it's also something that can be added, later down the line, should they would decide to do that. But yeah, throwing a spare is not a problem. Either doing it on the tailgate or on the front, just depending on, most of ours we do. We have a standard build, but I also like to talk with the customer, and then we tweak it here and there to help them out with what they're looking for. So, but yeah, we have done it with the spare. Sometimes we put them on the rack underneath on the lid underneath the rack. You can pretty much put them wherever they want them.
Yeah.
Since we're talking accessories, Jason, what all other accessories do people typically put on the Okie Built trailers?
Well, the most common is the one blatant obvious, and that's the rooftop tents. That's a pretty easy combo that go real well together. Past that, it's a lot of the sell a lot of like tongue boxes. We do a lot of just storage boxes. We're a front runner outfitters, so we sell a lot of their storage bins that they do. We also do a few water tanks here and there. Like I said, the majority we do is start out as the utility. So packing it in, we're actually, I wasn't going to say this, but we're working on doing a little R&D on a new model now to do more of the strictly camping. So we have kind of the both worlds there. And that one will be a lot more geared, a lot more outfitted. So a lot more Tetris playing in that one for sure to put it all in there.
I was going to ask you there, Jason. You've got multiple different trailer models, don't you?
We currently have the Trailhead, and that's pretty much our flagship. We're working on this new one, so hopefully we get it out. If not this year, first of next. I don't want to put out anything that we haven't, thoroughly tested. So
yeah,
we wanted to make sure that we focused and got really good at one thing, or at least we feel that we got good at one thing before we started branching out and just throwing a bunch of, random choices and hope they worked.
Well, whenever you get this second one done, I'll come pick it up and test it out for you.
There you go.
Well played.
So I'm looking at. You want me to deliver it? Would that be better?
Yeah, that'd be good.
There you go.
So I'm looking at the website right now, and I see the option for water storage. Mm-hmm. So I can explain what I did for water storage, and then compare to what you guys have. I actually just went on Amazon and ordered a RV type fuel, like food grade water tank, and it's got the filler inlet and then 2 different outlets. So in that, I think it was like $80 for the water tank, and then I just took some flat bar stock and made some straps to hold it down to the trailer, and that seems to have worked pretty well. The one thing I didn't consider was having the vent tube. So whenever I fill the water tank, you kind of have to give it a second to burp the system. Otherwise, Otherwise, there's nowhere for that air inside the tank to go as the water's filling up the space.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. My kids get a kick out of it when it finally gets to that max capacity, and I pull the hose out of the way, and it's geysers spews out all over the place. So maybe I shouldn't fix it because it's a good time for them too. But
Yeah, leave it. Leave it.
but that's what I've got with a little locking door on the outside. So I've got the water pump that runs from the tank back up to the same little filler door for the outlet, and the little electric switch. So you just open the door, flip the switch, and you've got running water. And that's what I've got. How is the Okie built trailer water system different?
We typically use the Front Runner. They've got it down to an art. They really great product line. Absolutely nothing wrong with going the Amazon route. It's obviously a little easier on the pocketbook too, but they're just all their stuff's modular. It fits great. All their bracketry fits well. Not to mention all the accessories that they have built to go with their tanks as well. So they do a lot of their roof racks. So you can buy a shower arm that bolts directly to the roof rack kind of thing. I mean, it makes it easier for I think on our end to help out with additional accessories and the ease of it all instead of trying to piece it together.
Yeah. What do you have for the shower? Because I've got one of those too. It's just the Triton tankless water heater where you hook up a pressurized hose to it and the propane tank and the shower head.
That's a pretty typical setup. And we also have one called the road shower, where it's basically a big tube that you bolt up, and it uses the sun to warm the water all day. It's a pretty inexpensive. It's a neat little gadget for the amount of money that it is compared to the other setup with all the hoses and all the stuff you got to get to make it work.
Yeah, I've seen those too. I saw one at the Vermont Overland Trophy the first year that they did it, and so it's basically just a black tube.
Right.
You fill it up with water, and then gravity pressurizes the tank. Seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, they have I think now you can actually pressurize it with the air pump. You
Okay.
actually have full-on water pressure out there. That's pretty nice.
Nice. Alex, do you have any kind of shower setup on yours?
Nah, we don't really do showers over here. It's just a bit of a dirt bath. Nah, it just take up too much space for ours, I think. And yeah, none of us have ever really stopped in a caravan park or something every 4 days, or a lot of the places we go camping and exploring, there's water around, so just jump in a creek or
There you
go swimming in a waterfall and have a wash off that way. And then once a week, just pull in, stock up in a town with some food, and have a proper de-stink in a real shower.
There you go.
Yeah. So no shower options for us.
Yeah, it drove me to make that decision because I wanted to make sure that my wife and my daughters were happy. My son and I and the dog, we're fine. We can get by with just about anything. But wanted to make sure they were comfortable. So it's worked out well. It's worked out well. We've used it a couple times. It's a lot nicer when you actually have a pressurized water spigot. Whenever you're running just on the water there inside the trailer, you're kind of limited on how long you don't get to take a nice leisurely shower because you're limited on the amount of water. But it is nice because you can just kind of flip the shower head and turn it off and on, so you're not just running the water whenever you're not using it.
Yeah.
Definitely glad to have that.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of information on trailers there, and really, I think what I enjoy most about the trailers is that you're limited only by your imagination on what you can do with a trailer. But there's a lot of advantage to going with something like an Okie built trailer where somebody else has done the R&D, they've figured out what worked, whereas mine, I put it all together, and the first trip out, I kept thinking, I don't know what's going to happen here. It was definitely an adventure, and we had thought about we were going to have a late start to the trip, and I decided to hold off the night and leave in the morning because if something did go wrong, I would know I would have been dealing with it in the dark. And I wanted to avoid that experience at all costs.
Never fun.
Yeah. But, there's been no mechanical issues. I do need to go back. I had it was a real rush job on the door seals, the weather seals on the doors. That is something that I definitely need to fix. After crossing a couple streams and going through some monsoon torrential downpours, there is a little bit of water that comes through. So the seals that's a tough one. It's because you want to keep all the water and the dust. And I don't know that any trailer is going to be able to keep out dust like you would if you were just in the vehicle.
Alex, you should know about it's the UAV 490 that does cabin pressure to keep dust out.
Oh, have heard of it. Yeah, don't know a whole lot about it though.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Not only that, it's got an LED flat screen, so you're not too far away from comfort there. So talking about over-the-top trailers, that'd be one of them.
Really that's for sure.
I had never even thought about doing that, like an overpressure inside the trailers. So
right, yeah.
It's constantly blowing air out.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. That may be a little more than I need on mine, though.
Yeah.
So, Jason, what about power? Do you have any kind of power systems, a battery or something on there?
Yeah, typically we use batteries. In fact, the last ones we did batteries to power up the winch for the ATV. So the cool thing about that is you just push the button and watch your ATV load instead of you having to fiddle with it. It's pretty nice.
That is pretty
smart. Of course, you got the solar power. It's a good way to do it. You can always use another wire on the pin to charge your batteries while you drive. There's several options to do it.
Okay, so talking about batteries, we've gone on the 4x4 podcast. There's recently been quite a bit of discussion on the proper setup for a dual battery, and I think for the trailer, it kind of has a separate or a different application. Is that battery on the trailer designed just to power accessories on the trailer? Is it a slow charge, or how's all that set up?
It really depends on the setup that you do, because like you said, there's probably a big discussion. Because there's not really a right or wrong way, in my opinion. It just depends, again, on the application that you're trying to achieve. If you wanted to use your vehicle's power to charge it while you're driving, that's an option. You can always use solar or even the wind if you wanted to bring a generator with you. Wind power, you can charge it that way too. But there's several ways to do that.
I hadn't even thought about the wind charging. That's a pretty good idea too.
We kind of toyed around with the idea of putting a little turbine so while you drive, 60 mile an hour, that's pretty good wind.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in certain areas of the world, such as Kansas where I just left, it is always windy. There is never a shortage of wind.
No.
Huh. That's a pretty good idea. Well, I've got mine set up so that it does charge off the vehicle, but not through the light wiring harness. It's got a separate wiring harness.
Right.
So it pulls straight off the main battery on the vehicle, and so when it's charging, it's sending a lot of amperage back to the trailer, but it also charges the battery up pretty quick.
Yeah.
I've got a dual battery, the T-Max dual battery kit, so it's got the charge controller and solenoid and everything. And the added benefit there is that if for some reason the kids leave a dome light on in the Jeep or something and overnight it drains it, I can just go back to the trailer, hit the button that links the batteries together, and then I can jump start the Jeep from the trailer. So haven't had to do that yet. Yeah. The Jeep decided to disable all of its door switches anyway, so I didn't have to worry about lights being left on or anything like that. Also, it didn't really matter because this far north, it's light for 22 hours a day, so I didn't have to worry about not having a light.
How long did that take to get used to, or are you still doing that?
The sun is now setting earlier and earlier. It changes a little bit at a time. You'd lose like a minute of sunlight a day, but now we're to the point where we're losing about 7 minutes of daylight every day, so it's sneaking up pretty fast. But I just made sure we got the sleep masks for everybody because the tent wasn't a dark enough color to keep the light out. But you put that mask on and it lights out.
You went CVT, didn't you?
I've got the CVT awning, but I've got the Tipui.
That's right.
Yeah, the Grand Sabana tent.
That's right.
And,
a good rig.
I mean, they're both great tents.
Absolutely.
I've been very happy with it. The awning has been extremely useful. I initially did not plan on getting an awning. I figured we'd just throw a tarp up or something. I mean, how often is it going to rain in the Pacific Northwest area? But it's turned out to be very useful. We spent some time out on the beach up in Washington and just rolled the awning out, sit in the shade, and enjoy the beach for a while. And then, for sure, once we got up into British Columbia and the Yukon, we'd roll it out pretty often to get away from the rain. And the awning actually has the bug room, too. And since the bugs up here are the size of birds, that comes in handy. So, but I've been pretty happy with it. Do you go with a certain brand for Okie built trailers, or just whatever the customer wants?
Typically, but we do sell a lot more Tipui. CVT we sold out there too. We sold a few of the Front Runner. They've got a Featherlight tent. It's a lot lighter weight.
Okay.
Not only material, but just overall weight. But yeah, I think the biggest majority of the ones we sell are the ruggedized Tipui.
Yeah, I know. You know, I got the tent in May, and then over the course of the trip, we were on the road for 32 days, and we didn't pay for a hotel a single night. And then once we got up to Alaska, it was kind of a wonky living situation, so we went the cheap route and stayed in the tent instead of having to pay the exorbitant fee for a hotel up here in Alaska. So I've got a lot of nights in that tent given the relatively short time that I've had the actual tent. Definitely got our money's worth, though.
Yeah, sounds like it.
The tent definitely paid for itself over the course of that trip. You know, a lot of these hotels, they were looking at, $150, $200 a night versus $15 for the expensive campsites.
Yeah.
It was a good deal. Well, guys, what did we miss anything talking about trailers for expeditions? I'm sure we did, because it is a bottomless rabbit hole.
It's a big topic, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and I went back and looked at the trailer, Taylor, you were asking about it. So the trailer itself, let's see, given everything, before I added the fridge and the tent, I was at $1,972, and that's counting the trailer, the dual battery setup, the shower unit, the wood box, and that's it. So that's more than everything you need to get going with the trailer. So under $2,000.
Okay,
That's worked out quite cheap, yeah.
I was going to say, Alex, how much have you got wrapped up in your project?
I wouldn't know, but I would expect off the top of my head maybe 5,000 or 6,000. So a little bit. Things like our dual battery controller, which is one of those smart charge things, they come in starting at about $400 alone. So some of the stuff is just crazy expensive. And not including the fridge as well. We've got a Waco CFX 50-litre fridge to go in there. That was about $1,100. So, yeah, maybe not including that. So it'll add up quick, but
yeah, it does.
It's all fun.
I mean, the rooftop tent I've got, I think it prices out at $1,800. So that adds, instantly doubles the price of the trailer.
Yeah.
And then that fridge freeze unit that's not cheap. That's about the same price, $1,800. But those are the kinds of things that will probably outlive the trailer. I'll be able to transfer that fridge and the tent over to the next trailer or another vehicle or whatever.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it.
You want to think about I don't know, I'm a proponent of the buy once, cry once thing. But I also did in the same way want to show what could be done on the cheap building the trailer.
Yeah.
So, I feel like the Harbor Freight trailer and the wood box, given the correct building, construction technique, you can really get something excellent for not that much money. So, for anybody that really wants to build their own trailer, I really recommend going over and looking at the Compact Camping Concepts or the Danute ones. Danute has you kind of pick your own frame, and then they've got the fiberglass panels on it. So I don't know how well they hold up, but I've seen nothing but great things around the internet from them. Probably not going to be the same durability. You can't smash it in the rock the same way you could with the something like the Okie built. I don't know if it would rip the front end off the car.
Something would rip for sure.
Yeah.
So, Jason, what do your trailers run? What do they start out at?
We got them right now at $4,500, but that's also including everything that we talked about. The lock and rolls, the suspension, the suspension pieces alone they're pretty pricey. But if you're gonna make a good trailer, you got to put good products in it.
Yeah.
You also offer a cheaper option, don't you? Also offer a build-it-yourself kit.
Yeah, we had the DIY. We had that one going for a while. The problem that we were running into with that more than anything was shipping. Trying to get, because all of our stuff's built, or it was all cut, so you just had to glue it together. The downside was the long 3x3 that ran through the core of it. It's pretty long, and shipping was quite the bear. So local pickup was pretty much the only really avenue that was worthwhile, because shipping was like 3 times as much as the kit was, so it really wasn't advantageous to go that route.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just freight alone. So that was the demise with that one. But it's still it's kind of like available, but upon request.
I tell you what, that Amazon Prime membership I've got paid for itself. All the stuff that I was ordering through there. I mean, basically everything other than the frame and the lumber and the fridge freeze, well, and the tent, all came from Amazon. So the water, all the wires, all the fuses, the fuse box, the switches, the lights, everything from Amazon.
Yeah, for sure.
I had the brown Santa at my door a couple times a week dropping stuff off.
It was a fun day, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd come home one night and there'd be a giant box, with a water tank or something in it. But well, hopefully everybody that gets to listen to the Overland Roundtable has learned something from the different experiences, and I'm sure there's going to be some feedback. So if you want to share your experience with a trailer that you've built or something that you were thinking about regarding building a trailer and we didn't mention, you can send that to us at overlandroundtable@gmail.com, and also on our Facebook page. You can send us something right there, and we'll be able to get that. So I was hoping to have Brandon Libby on tonight because he has built a teardrop trailer. So we may revisit this topic here on a future session. May not be the main topic again for a while, but we'll be sure to touch on it. So thanks, guys. We'll go around and mention where it is that we can get in contact with you. So we'll start off with Alex. Where can we find more about Alex Gardner?
All right. Well, I'll start with the website, intenseoffroad.com, and I'm going to spell it this time. It's INTENTS offroad.com. I would have put it down the bottom of the screen, but I couldn't figure that bit. So you can find me over there. You'll find Intense Off-Road on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well.
Yeah, man, those YouTube videos are hilarious. Love them.
Thanks, Dan.
All right.
Yeah, they're a bit of fun.
And Jason, where can we find more about Okie Built Trailers?
Just like the same, go to okiebuilttrailers.com. There's a contact us there. Be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has. And whether you become a customer or not, we just love this arena. So we'd love to talk and live it. So if you got anything, hit us up. We'll be more than happy to help you out. We're also across all the different social facets that are out there today.
Now, and if somebody if somebody does want to come and do a local pickup of a trailer, are you located in Oklahoma, I would assume?
Correct. Yeah, we're based out of Ada, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. All right, and Taylor, where can we find out more about the Overland Adventures?
You can find the Overland Adventures on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just as simple as that.
Perfect. And I am Dan, also host of the 4x4 podcast. You can find out more about that show over at the 4x4podcast.com. And of course, for this show, we have the Overland, I take that back, just overlandroundtable.com. And that'll have links to all our social media outlets, ways that you can get in contact with us. So I think that's it for session number 3 of the Overland Roundtable. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
See you all.
See ya.